How do you keep going when you have been failing for years and years at something? When your dream has been heavy on your heart and you've been working toward it for a long time and you just feel like the gap is so big. Well, my friends, I have been in the music industry for almost 2 decades now. In fact, technically 2 decades because I started actually writing songs when I was 13. I'm 33 now. Knew I wanted to sing and kind of work towards that career when I was like 7 or 8, but it evolved over time. When I was about 19, I actually moved out to LA and started really pursuing it, like full out. But yeah, it's been almost 2 decades since I've been actively pursuing a music career. And now I've stepped into voice acting, and that's a whole other story. I've fallen in love with that. But I really wanted to share my story of my journey because I see so many of my friends, of my peers who are on the verge of giving up, who have given up, who are just looking for some sliver of hope. And, this is unconventional because usually it's somebody who has made it. Right? Somebody like Beyonce who's like, let me tell you my story because I'm on the other side. I've accomplished all my dreams. And so it's very inspirational to see somebody who went through it all and is now at the top. I'm not at the top, right? So why should you listen to me? Because I'm still in it after nearly 2 decades. Something's going on. I got something in my mindset, something in my perspective, and something in the enjoyment, once you figure this out, the enjoyment of the journey and how it unfolds, and being able to zoom out and see the bigger picture of your life and how every roadblock, every delay, every detour, how long things take, when you thought they should take 1 year and they took 5 years, how that benefits you when you zoom out, when you're able to understand how it all comes together. Okay? I got something going on in my mind that is keeping me going joyfully, right? I've had many periods where I was depressed, where I wasn't sure what the hell I was doing and if I should keep going, but I feel more inspired than ever. And I want you to know that this whole journey, even though I've had success in a lot of ways, I'm a full-time freelance singer-songwriter voice actress, and it's wonderful, and I love it. I'm making a good living. Like, that part's wonderful, but I'm obviously not where I want to be, which is a full-time songwriter in the, bigger sector of the industry, writing for major artists, Billboard charting hits, and voice acting in major anime, major video games that everybody knows and plays, right? Those are my goals. I'm not there yet. I've been doing this for a long time, but I'm happier than I've ever been in my life, and I'm still not where I want to be. So what's the difference? Why am I still going? How am I still enjoying this journey and not feeling like maybe I should give it up? I'm 33. Like, am I really going to keep hustling and doing this for the rest of my life, just trying to make it?
Let me tell you that I've had this dream since I was 13, watching MTV.
My perspective has shifted so much over the last few years. And because I'm in this state of just absolute enjoyment and inspiration and fulfillment, which again does not mean I don't have low periods and feel depressed and anxious and stressed and frustrated. Not often, but once every couple of months, I have a real dip where I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? Anyways, I wanted to share my story and then tell you why all of this delay has been the best thing ever and why you should keep going. Don't stop, baby. Okay, calm down. So as I said, very young age, I knew I wanted to do music. I actually loved acting too, but I felt like I kind of had, and I loved modeling and dancing, but I felt like I had to pick one because it just was, my brain was like, you gotta focus a little bit on one thing first. And music just seemed to be the most aligned thing at the time for me to follow because people were always telling me that I had a good voice, blah, blah, blah. So I thought, okay, well, let's just start with that. I live in a musical family. Everyone in my family pretty much is into music. So it just felt right. So when I was about 19, I moved out to LA. I'm from the Inland Empire, so it was only an hour away. It's not like I moved from Illinois or something. Anyways, and I was sleeping on floors and couches. My friend offered to let me sleep on his couch along with my other friend. We would take turns sleeping on the couch and floor. And we worked at the tech company he worked at. He got us a job pretty much, hooked us up. And we worked there for a couple years. I slept on the floor and the couch for a couple of years. And I started in a girl group, actually. So Craigslist was a big thing back in the day. Back in the early 2000s, Craigslist was still shady, but there were a lot of actually good opportunities on there. So I had been searching through and I found that there were auditions for a girl group. And for some reason, my intuition told me, do it. Even though I never intended to be in a pop group, I don't want to be in a girl group. I'm a solo artist. I'm trying to be the next Beyonce, Sierra, but something felt right. My intuition said, this might be cool, go check it out. So I had my parents drive me there. It was in Temecula, California, where the auditions were, because I wanted to be safe. So my parents came with me to make sure it wasn't some creepy weirdo, right? Auditioned for the girl group, got in. There were 4 of us total. We cycled through a lot of girls, because groups, bands, yeah, get some, you lose some, you get some, you lose some. Lots of drama. But overall, it was an incredible experience. We started making music together, performing. God, we probably did over 50 shows over the span of, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. I don't know how long I was in the group because time freaking flies. But I know I wasn't 21 when I started, so I had to have been 19 or 20. Because I remember some of the shows, some of the girls would be drinking and I'd be like, oh, maybe I could sneak some, but I wasn't old enough, so they'd have to put the big old X on my hand when we'd perform at clubs because I was underage. Anyways, we started performing, we started making music. We did everything that you're supposed to do, right? We had a management team. We were doing photo shoots and music videos. And, when Instagram came out, we all made Instagrams and we were trying to push and market and do all the things. We had an amazing time. I learned so much about performing. I grew because I was very shy at the time. Hard to believe, I know. I used to be incredibly shy, my friends, like terrified, very insecure, very like, oh, no, I'm not that good, like not proud of my talent, not proud of my voice. I don't want to say no personality, but I kind of didn't really know who I was. I had this girl next door look about me because I'm from a small town and I didn't want to stand out. But inside, I was like this, like kind of wild card, creative, artsy girl who's kind of like, I don't want to say hardcore. That sounds so cheesy, but like I was a gymnast and like, like I had this powerful lioness inside me that I never let out. Anyways, that's irrelevant. Um, but I spent a couple years with them and man, I improved vocally. I just learned so much and I had 3 best friends and our manager became my best friend for years and years after that. It was an incredible experience. At some point after at least 5 years, but probably more in the group, pushing and pushing and pushing and still performing at the same crappy clubs and just trying to make a little headway, trying to get in with a record company, then we tried to do the independent thing where we just pushed our own music and we started to get a lot of views, a lot of fans, like people would show up at our shows and it was cool, but we just felt like we couldn't cross that threshold. And what happened was we got to a point where I felt like it was being mismanaged and the decisions that were being made were not moving us forward. And I just disagreed. It happens in a lot of bands when there's a management. I just disagreed with where we were going. I didn't feel comfortable with it anymore. The last straw was that there was supposed to be this tour that we were going to go on in a different country. And it felt shady to me. And my intuition said no. And so I said, I'm not doing it. And I quit the group. It was the hardest decision I ever had to make because I loved those girls. Oh my God. And they were incredible. They were all so talented, but it just didn't feel right anymore. So I quit. And then I found out later that the tour was not what was promised. It was, I'm not going to tell their story because that's disrespectful because I haven't talked to them about it and I don't have their permission to share anything. But I will just say that it was what I thought it was going to be, which was kind of scary. So after that, I started pursuing my solo career and the manager who was also my best friend now, came with me and she became my manager for my solo career. And I, same thing, just started building up from scratch, making music. I met so many producers in LA at that point. I was spending all of my money on studio time, photography, getting photo shoots done, music videos. At the time, because I didn't know anything about marketing, I would like pay for ads to try to get more views on my Instagram, like everything. I did all the things. I auditioned for the different shows. So when people are like, why don't you go to American Idol? I'm like, y'all really don't think that I tried out for all those shows? Now, did I consistently pursue that? No. But that's because I believe strongly in my intuition and I didn't feel called to go and do that again. Anyways, I started pursuing it and I, again, had so much fun. I met so many incredible people along the way and made some really great music and have relationships that, you know, I still cherish to this day and music that I can still make with those same producers I worked with 10 years ago, right? So, anyways, I was still sleeping on floors and couches throughout all that time because then I moved in with my ex and his family, and so I still, like, didn't have my own spot. We kinda had our own spot and then went broke. Just so you guys know, I was broke this entire time, hence the sleeping on floors and couches. Never learned about money, that's a whole 'nother story. Never learned about how to just survive as an adult financially because they don't teach you that in school. And so, yeah, I was broke that entire time. I truly was the starving artist, right? I was on food stamps, sleeping on the floor. And at one point, I remember just being, we had, no, this was before I got evicted from my first apartment. Technically, didn't get evicted. I got a 3-day pay or quit and I moved out. So that's why it's not on my record. Thank the Lord. But this was before that. I was single still. But anyways, I was so broke that I was sleeping on this girl's floor. It was a friend of a friend. I was sleeping on her floor and she had cockroaches so bad. This was in Hollywood, uh, just above Sunset. I can't remember the other cross street, but it was a studio apartment. Not even a one bedroom. It was a studio apartment. It was in the trap, y'all. And the big roaches. I'm talking the big ones the size of your hand. They were everywhere. And they were crawling all over the place. And I'm sleeping on the floor, so that's really comforting to see them crawling on the kitchen counter. And at one point, I lived in an apartment with 4 other roommates where there were mice. And so that didn't last long because I could not handle the mice thing. Some people called me a baby for that. I'm sorry. Cockroaches I can live with, mice absolutely not, right? That's just a different level of like, I feel unsafe. I know it sounds silly to some people, but anyways, again, irrelevant. The point of the story is I did the starving artist thing, right? I remember going to a food bank one day because I literally had no money for food and I was able to get a hold of $30 because the food stamps weren't enough for 2 people at the time when me and my ex were living together. It wasn't enough for both of us to survive and pay rent. So I went to the food bank. I remember I had $30 and I was able to get a big group of food, which, by the way, no one believes me when I say this. This was in the downtown LA food bank. No disrespect to them. I hope it's gotten better since then. But majority of the food was spoiled, was expired, was nasty. Okay, and I don't say this as like, it was not quality food. I like shopping at Sprouts, like privileged. I mean, the fruit was rotting and most of the other food was expired. Even the boxes of Cheetos, like there was some like chips and things, half of it was expired. And thinking back now, I'm like, wow, like that really makes me want to push to fund a lot of food banks and a lot of other, this is a total side story, but I really want to make an effort to draw attention to that and to put more money and resources into that to help others because no one should live like that. I could go on a whole rant on that and I won't right now. But anyways, I went through that for quite a few years. I lived the starving artist lifestyle. I was trying so hard. I was meeting with these producers I had this producer who was signed to Motown. He had like some type of production deal, I think. So he wasn't signed to a record deal. He was signed to a production deal, meaning that for a certain amount of time, he got a lot of money, got put up in an apartment to produce songs, some for himself, some for other artists as a producer and songwriter. And I thought it was the most amazing thing ever. I would go into his studio and just be in the studio with him making songs and just hearing him talk about his life and seeing that literally he got to be in the studio all day, every day at one of these really cool old school studios. It just was so glamorous and exciting to me, right? So, what was funny is I initially had this dream of becoming a pop star, right? And I wanted to be Beyonce and be famous. But when I would actually get on stage and perform, or I would put out a song or something and then I would try to promote it and push it as like, look at me, I'm the artist, become my fan, it always felt off to me. And this is part of why I wanted to make this video because I feel like maybe 50% of why I didn't have much movement or success for so long, for so many years, was because I was misaligned with what my heart was telling me. So my ego was telling me, I want fame and fortune, right? I want to be a pop star and tour, which is hilarious because I don't really like leaving the house. So really? But again, ego was telling me I wanted this because I needed validation. I needed someone to tell me I was special and I was great and have fans and all this. But when I would go in the studio with my producer and we'd just vibe and work on songs and write and create, I could do it for 12 hours. In fact, there were times when I was in the studio from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then I would go to work and I didn't care. I would just get a bunch of coffee and snacks and I would just power through. I wasn't even tired because I loved it. It was just like a fire in my heart, right? So I wish I would have recognized earlier that that was what my true love was, not being a pop star, right? But anyways, long story short, I went through all of that, and man, it was the span of like 10 years that I was pushing so hard and feeling like, man, I'm trying everything that everyone tells me to do. I'm doing all the right steps. I'm doing my own marketing and promotion and posting on social media and consistently putting out music and trying to network and meet with people and get in front of the right producers and blah, blah, blah. And I just started to get exhausted. Like, what am I doing? Why isn't any of this working? I got some business development, training to learn. Like maybe if I learn how to be a better business person, I can push my career forward. And that helped me in a different department. So I'm glad I did it. But nothing was working. And it just felt like I was going nowhere. Right. And a couple years ago, I really started to fall into a funk and a depression. Like, do I want to keep doing this? Because something is off. This isn't that I'm not good enough, and I don't say that because I'm cocky and conceited and think I'm amazing, better than anyone else. But what happened was I started getting songwriting opportunities literally out of nowhere. Like through making music and getting in the studio, it just kind of came to me. People would come to me and say like, "Oh, you write your own songs? Huh, would you want to work on a track for our singer?" I'm like, "Oh, sure, that sounds fun." Like it just kind of happened. And I didn't put any attention into being a songwriter and creating even music that I was singing on my own tracks, but for a TV show, right? I didn't really get into that intentionally. It found me. And so as that was happening, I'm like, okay, well, now I feel like I'm going in the wrong direction at this point. So anyways, something was off. And it just made me sad for a while. I just was in a funk for a couple years where I was kind of forcing myself to put out music and put out music videos and still trying, but my heart wasn't in it. And when I was probably about 28 was when I started thinking, you know what? I don't know where this is going. I know I love music. I know I love creating and writing. I'm not going to quit completely, but I don't know what to do anymore. So I'm just going to kind of focus on making money with it so that I don't have to work a regular job because I really don't want to do that. So I shifted my focus for a couple years, hence the business development training being really helpful, on how can I be a freelance singer-songwriter and make a living so I don't have to go back to work. 2020, I had the ability to do that because of COVID. I got laid off So I still got paid through unemployment. I didn't ask for it, they gave it to me. And I actually made more money with the unemployment than I did at my job because California had weird stuff. But, anyways, I was able to save up money since I wasn't driving to work, right? And I moved back in with my parents. I moved back in with my parents several times, you guys. So, in terms of like being embarrassed because you're not, making it happen and you're moving back in with your stop. Like, it happens. There's no reason to feel ashamed about it. It happened to me several times. I went broke so many times. I was always overdrafted. I was in so much debt. I've been through this cycle many times. And now it's funny because I'm like, in the grander scheme of things, life is so good that, being in debt, it's uncomfortable. And of course, you don't want to be in that situation. But like, if you have food to eat, even if that means you have to ask a friend to buy you dinner or ask your parents to help or ask the government for help, like, if you have food to eat and four walls to protect you and you are not in a dangerous situation, like, your basic needs are met. So from there, you can create a beautiful life. Like, if you've got your basic needs met, you can create anything. You don't have to have money to create it, right? I don't even know why I went off on this tangent, but anyways, I got to a point where I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do anymore, but as long as I'm making money doing music, I'm happy for right now until I figure it out. So, I was able to, over the last 5-6 years, build up a full book of freelance clients to where I'm making a living doing music, and just recently added voice acting to that. But what happened was, through those couple of years, kind of taking a step back from pursuing being like an actual artist, you know, with songs blowing up on Spotify and all that stuff, and just trying to listen to that voice, to that intuition, to guide me, to tell me what to do next. Waiting, not sitting around waiting for inspiration, like, oh, I'm just going to sit around and do nothing until I get some grand inspiration and then I'll move. No, I was still making moves, but I was not taking action out of desperation anymore, which is what I did for 10 years, right? There were times where I followed the nudge, and that always led to something good, joining the girl group. First, searching on Craigslist for opportunities for singers for hire. That's how I started getting my first freelance clients, and that built from there. The nudge to take the business course, even though it didn't really necessarily make sense for what I was doing at the time, I felt inspired to do it, so I did. All of those things led to beautiful growth and opportunity in my life, but I was no longer going to just take massive action all the time out of desperation. And what happened was, I started to understand that every step of the last 2 decades has been a piece of a beautiful puzzle that is still filling out. And if any of those pieces were missing, it would all fall apart. If any of those pieces were not in place over the last 2 decades, I would not be who I am now. I would not have advanced my voice to the level it's at now because of how much training I got, how much experience and exposure I got to producers and voice coaches and different people I worked with, how much I learned who I am inside and out and really found my unique style and voice and in writing. I would not have discovered that my true joy and love was in the creation rather than in the performing, touring, being a famous artist life. That took me pursuing it. And I've said this before, if I hadn't have pursued it, because you kind of think like, oh, I wish I would have known this earlier. Then I could have been, successful and happy earlier just as a songwriter and a voice actress. Yeah, but I would not have gotten the vocal training that I had if I didn't pursue being a famous artist. That came along with it. And that time I was performing on stage gave me confidence that I wouldn't have if I hadn't done it, because there is nothing scarier than performing live on stage. I can end this video right now, start it over, and make it better and put it on, right? Can't do that live on stage. So the confidence, the experience, the training that I got from this whole journey, the transformation that happened when I used to have terrible anxiety. I still have it. I still work on it every day, right? But I used to have panic attacks all the time. Being broke so many times, right? Going through literal, like, we don't have food right now when we have $0. In fact, we have negative dollars. Those experiences pushed me into mindset and meditation. And that changed my life. While I still experience anxiety and depression from time to time, and it's still a part of my life, I am way different. I don't remember the last time I had an actual full body panic attack. I've had a few like hearts racing and my fingers are tingling moments when I was just really scared or nervous, but I've been able to manage it and maintain it because I went through all of these really crappy situations. My marriage is amazing. I married my best friend. Why? Because I went through a toxic relationship. And this is no disrespect to him. The relationship was toxic. I'm not saying he was a bad person. We were not good together, right? Toxic love. And because of that experience, it showed me what qualities I liked and who I was and how I was contributing poorly to the relationship, my insecurity and jealousy issues, my victimization, all that crap. I was a very different person in that relationship. And I realized I needed to change. And I realized I wanted something different out of a man, right? So from that, it shifted me into, oh, this is what I really want, and this is what I need to adjust in myself in order to be a better partner for my dream guy. And now I have an incredible relationship with my best friend who's also, my romantic partner. It's like, wow, dream come true. Didn't expect that to happen. I didn't even think about marriage. I was not that girl who was like, my wedding day. I was not that girl. I didn't even think I would get married, actually. I never really thought about it. I never really cared. But anyways, everything that's happened has made me who I am today. And obviously, part of my journey now is voice acting. I love acting, and I remember loving it when I was a kid. But again, I felt like I couldn't pursue it and singing at the same time. I'm like, oh, maybe someday. And 2 years ago, I'm like, I just want to feel inspired again. I feel like there's something missing in my life. Like, I'm grateful and I'm happy, but something is missing in my soul. Like, what is it? And then an ad for voice acting classes came up, and I'm like, I love video games and anime. I think I probably could do commercials too. This sounds really fun. Let's go check it out. Intuitive nudge. Went and checked it out. Now I'm a professional voice actor, right? Building my career in voice acting. Now I can't imagine if I had never asked that question, like, what the hell is going on? Why do I feel something missing? Then I wouldn't have had this intuitive nudge to go into voice acting. And if I had had success in the first couple of years that I wanted to be a pop star, I would have a very different life. And I don't think it would be a good life because that missing piece of wanting to just be in the studio and create, I probably would have been signed to a record deal, which would have taken all my creative freedom. This is not guaranteed. Maybe I could have worked something out where I could have been an independent artist that blew up like a Tech Nine, right? But I didn't really want to be on stage and go tour. Like, that wasn't really fun for me. So had it happen the way I thought that my life is supposed to be, I would not have been happy. And I would not have had this deeply fulfilling life that I have now, which is being a creative entrepreneur. I call myself a serial creativepreneur because I have so many interests and I'm following them all, right? I'm saying, why not do it all? You know what I mean? Some things will need to take priority at different times. Right now, I'm focused on voice acting. My album is taking a back seat. That's cool. Still working on it, but I'm focused on building my voice acting business right now. Then I will bring more of my own, album back into the spotlight, and then working more on my songwriting stuff. Like, it all will have its time. But my point is, the reason that I keep going is because I just decided that following my heart and continuing to just be quiet and listen and say, what would I love in this moment? What feels good to me in this moment? And having the trust. You hear this so much. You just got to believe. Just have faith and keep going and don't give up. And someday you'll get there. Keep working hard. It's not just about having faith in yourself that it'll happen. It's also about having faith and believing that everything is part of the process, that working at the coffee shop for 5 years or in a job you hate is part of the process, right? Yes, you want to get out of there. Yes, work towards your dream, whatever it is, but believing that everything is meant for you. Everything is meant for your highest good, even when it sucks, right? I'm not saying think that toxic, terrible, abusive situations, this is a good thing. I'm glad this is happening in my life and stay in it. No, but understanding that there is something good in every moment, that there's something powerful and unique and transformative that you may not see right now while you're in it, but I promise you 5 years from now you're going to go, "Ooh, I actually gained a really good skill from that. Actually, that relationship led to this relationship, which led to this relationship 8 years later that was the missing piece that helped me get more attention, that they introduced me into doing TikToks and suggested I do these types of TikToks. And now, boom, I blew up, right? There's so many little pieces to this puzzle. Okay. So as long as you start focusing on every day, what do I love? What do I love? What feels good? What do I love? What do I want to do out of pure joy of my heart? When you start focusing on that, it may take a while. It took me a whole year of saying, what feels good? What do I want? And getting no answer. What would I love? No answer. I feel lost. I was lost for like an entire year and just feeling kind of depressed. And then, boom, because I stayed the course and just started following every little tiny inspiration, things started to line up. So just focus on what you love and what is driving you in each moment, and you'll start to have a different set of glasses, right? They talk about rose-colored glasses. It's like a different way of seeing the world and seeing your life. Like you now have God sight or universe sight, and you're able to see like, oh, okay. I didn't see how this was related to my goal, but now I'm seeing it, like you'll start to notice even when stuff sucks and bad stuff happens, you'll go, oh, that was the catalyst for this happening. It's actually amazing that I went through that, right? Anyways, rant over. I wanted to tell you that story and let you know that, from someone who's been chasing a dream for nearly 2 decades, it can feel really hard to keep going when you don't see the progress you want. And when everyone around you's like, oh, I thought you were going to be a famous actor or famous writer. What happened? And you just feel like you're stuck on a treadmill, but I promise you that every single step along the way is leading to something great. So I know you hear it all the time and you're going to hate me for saying it, but enjoy the journey. Enjoy it. And if you feel like it's taking too long, then there are two things going on. Either it's part of a grander vision, which sometimes takes longer just because there are so many moving pieces and so much elevation that happens as you stumble through it. Or perhaps you're focusing on something that really isn't your true, soul, heart-centered dream, and it might be more of an ego thing, or you really don't believe in yourself, and so there's some mindset shifts that need to happen, but don't stop. I'm going to be launching my artist community this month on School for this very reason, for my friends and peers who are just exhausted and just tired of chasing and pushing and trying and failing. I got you. We're not going to give up. We're not going to let each other give up. We're going to stick together and talk it out. We're going to do live calls every week where we motivate each other, not just motivation, but actual mind shift and practical tools inside and out that will help you to look at your life differently, help you to stay inspired and kind of stay in line with that heart-centered version of yourself that knows what's right for you. We're going to do it together. So stay tuned for that. And I love you guys. See you very soon.